Buzz now at 9. A mother's blog getting a lot of reaction. It's titled, quote, "Mom Confession. I think I love my son a little bit more." In that blog, the writer who you see here opens up. She says she thinks she loves her 21-month-old son a little more than her 3-year-old daughter. She says it's partly has to do with the way her children were born. Her daughter was taken away from her for a while at birth, and mom got sick following her child being born for several months. Her son, on the other hand, she says, was put in her arms right away. Mom also says her lack of experience probably had something to do with how she raised her oldest daughter. Now at 9, we put a link on our Facebook page to this blog. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. What are your thoughts?
Because the response to this has been crazy. I mean, hundreds of comments on her blog, lots of comments on our Facebook page as well. And it's one of those situations where, listen, all of our kids are different. You've got twins, and I imagine they're drastically different, and you love them in different ways. But to put that down on paper, I mean, that's never going to go away.
That is a digital footprint that will follow her, and hopefully her daughter never reads this. I think the only time you should admit to something like this is in a therapist's chair. I'm shocked that she would put it out there for everyone to see.
And a lot of moms on her blog support what she's saying because they understand maybe they had something traumatic happen after childbirth that kind of disconnects them a little bit. But to put it in writing, it stings so much harder. Many of you sounding off. Let's get to to Clarissa Cody on Facebook. She says, it's so very wrong to favor one child over another. It scars the children for life. Even if a parent feels more fondness toward a child, that parent should never outwardly voice it or show it.
But Sherry Phillips disagrees, saying it's very normal. Just make sure you don't go overboard. It's good that you recognize it. Try to keep balance.
Samantha Langston Osby says, you are dreaming if you think you can love each of your children in the same way. There will always be one whose personality will challenge you more than another's. That's what makes them unique, and you grow as a mother. And again, a lot of the comments on her blog supporting her as well.
Well, I like what Stacy Benintini says, and I think maybe this is where there's some confusion. She's saying love is the wrong word. When it comes down to it, we all would jump in front of a moving train for our kids. Like would be the correct word. Our kids are just people with different personalities, just like any other person in the world. So maybe that's where there's some disconnect, because I've talked to mothers who've actually outwardly told me, I don't like my daughter. I love her because I have to, but I don't like her.
Especially when they're teenagers and they really start butting heads with you. And this is something that Maggie Shaw points to. She says, I think sometimes mothers are tougher on their daughters, perhaps because we know through experience how hard it is to be a woman. With my 2 daughters, I love them the same amount, but our relationships are very different.
Well, and Jamie on Facebook writes, I can totally relate to this mother's feelings. I've never felt that I love my son more than my daughter, but I do get annoyed quickly by my daughter's misdeeds while my son gets away with a lot more. She goes in to talk about expectations and how they're different for their kids.
And Maggie Shaw, that's the one you just read, but Becky Bradford, she says, my love for my daughter and my son has always been and will always be equal.
Matthew Teeter says, it's definitely not fair, but it's normal and does happen, as I was on the not-so-much end of that growing up.
LEB writes, this is temporary. She will get over this idea after her baby is about her daughter's age. Both are hers, and she will see that kids change as they get older, and somehow they become more endearing as they get older.
Elizabeth Fuller, she says, I knew my parents were fibbing when they said they loved us all the same.
Well, Rachel Sigler says this is a problem, and children do suffer, I know from experience. So she says she's gone through it, and it's not fun to be on the other end of that. But again, hopefully the digital footprint kind of fades away by the time the daughter is old enough to grow up. Because, you wouldn't want to read that.
No, that's everyone's concern.
Yeah, she's 3, and very quickly in her blog, she points out that the 3-year-old wants it her way, and she does this and she does that. She's 3.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gain control of her, and maybe you'll love her a lot more.
Or like her a lot more.
There
Hopefully you'll love her the same.